Buying a drone is hard. I have 8 drones here today, but we've tested more than a dozen. And it seems like every month there's a new drone coming out and they lose their value really quickly and they have all these different sets of features. So I'm gonna help you find the right drone for your budget. But buying a drone might not be right for you at all. Sometimes it's just better to rent, especially if you're not using something all the time, if you're worried about it not holding its value like a lot of these drones don't. So look, this box is from our sponsor, Lens Rentals, where you can actually rent drones in case you're not ready to buy one. That's a good way to try it out, or if you just need one once in a while for fun or for real estate, don't bother buying one. Here we have our Mavic Pro, guaranteed to work beautifully, even comes with a memory card. If you decide you want to rent something, go to lensrentals.com and get 15% off with the code Northrop15. They don't just have drones, they have cameras and lenses and video, still photography stuff, whatever you're into, you can get it there. Let's work from the least expensive drone all the way up to the $20,000 Inspire 2. First up, the Bebop Parrot, the original one. This thing was $500 when it launched, and if you wanted a real controller for it, it was another $400. But nowadays, you can pick these things up for about $130. While it's not as good as these other drones, it's pretty good. It flies pretty well, and the footage is usable. This isn't gonna be perfect for your top-notch YouTube channel, but you can definitely learn to fly. And even if you decide you want to rent a drone for those times when you need it, you're gonna wanna be prepared with some piloting skills before you bother to get that drone in, right? The Bebop drone is a great way to learn how to film and to get some good footage. A big step up from that is the DJI Spark. The Spark is small. It's maybe not as small as it looks because it has these arms and these kind of props that kind of flip around and can get tangled on stuff in your bag, but it's pretty easy to travel with. And look at the front. It's got a little gimbal on it. It can rotate, it can compensate for some amount of twist, which means it's gonna provide you smoother footage. It's still just an HD drone, but it's pretty good. And yeah, you can get one for like 350 bucks without a controller right now, but I wouldn't suggest it. I would stick with this Bebop if you can't afford a controller, because flying a drone without a controller is a nightmare. It's impossible to get like great footage with it, and it's clumsy, and I actually consider it to be kind of unsafe because I don't find that I can respond fast enough in the event of an emergency. So definitely save up and get the kit with the controller if you don't care about size. Consider getting an older model Phantom like the DJI Phantom 3 that you can pick up for about 600 bucks. It's overall a better drone. It's just not as small and compact. Next up, my favorite travel drone. This is the #1 drone that I recommend to people. This is the DJI Mavic Air. It's DJI's newest drone and it looks really beautiful. It flies absolutely fantastic and it folds up so compact that you can fit it into just about any sort of bag at all. The DJI Mavic Air is practically the perfect drone. It's probably the drone that most of you should buy, or better yet, just rent it and try it out and see how that goes. For example, if you're heading out on a vacation and you just need a drone for 3 days, but you know you're not gonna be flying it on a regular basis, just rent one and then you can send it back. And that way, when DJI releases the Mavic Pro 2 in another month, you're not caught with this outdated drone. We love the Mavic Air because it handles high winds spectacularly. It's way more stable than the Spark is, and because it has this nice 3-axis gimbal there, adding in an extra axis, the footage ends up much better. It is a pro quality drone, recording at 4K and 30p. We don't have any hesitations about using this in our videos, whereas with the Spark, we would never try to mix that footage in. It's just not that good of a quality. Next up is the drone I rented from Lens Rentals. This is the Mavic Pro. And like the Mavic Air and all these Mavic drones, it is compact, it is travel size, it fits in your bag pretty easily. It is not as compact as the Mavic Air. It's a little bit bigger. But we've traveled with this thing since it was brand new, and it's just never been a problem to have in my backpack. The footage is not as good as the Mavic Air, and that seems kind of shocking, right? Because it's bigger, it's more expensive, so why isn't the footage better? Because the Mavic Air is a little bit newer, and DJI is just making incremental improvements to their image processor. The Mavic Pro has one huge advantage over the Mavic Air, and that is much better reception, especially in urban areas where there's lots of Wi-Fi, and especially in Europe where you have to dial down the transmission a little bit. Out in the wilderness, the Mavic Air is going to be just fine. In your suburban neighborhood, the Mavic Air will probably be okay too. Here's a really cheap upgrade. DJI offers 2 versions of the Mavic Pro. There's also a Mavic Pro Platinum. but you don't need to buy that. What you can do instead is just buy the Mavic Pro Platinum blades. That's what these are. They are shaped very slightly differently, but what they do is they make the Mavic a much quieter drone. They also lower the pitch of the sound, so it's just a much more discreet drone. Here's an even bigger drone at about $1,200, the Phantom 4 Advanced. Well, you're not going to want to travel with it. I know this because I traveled with one for years and it was a holy nightmare. The box for this is absolutely huge. It doesn't fold up much at all. If you're gonna fit it in the box it comes with, you have to take these props off. If you wanna travel with a drone, if you wanna get the shots while you're on vacation, pick the Mavic Air or the Mavic Pro, but the Phantom 4 Advanced will give you substantially better footage. The footage is smoother and cleaner, and you can go to 4K at 60p, meaning you can either publish at 30p and get the ability to do slow motion, smooth shots, which have that nice cinematic effect, or you can match your 4K 60p footage in case you're shooting with something like a GH5. On a day-to-day basis, if I have a real estate gig, I will pull out a Phantom 4 Advanced because they are more reliable, they are more stable, they're bigger and heavier so they can handle more winds, and just look how much sturdier this gimbal is than the gimbal that's on the Mavic Pro or the Mavic Air. These little fiddly things like that versus this big old gimbal. I think this is our 4th Phantom of different generations, and we've never had a gimbal fail, whereas I have literally had a gimbal fail on every single Spark or Mavic that I've had. This is the Phantom 4 Advanced, and you can get the 2 types of controllers for it. The standard controller is like this. It's got a little grippy thing that you put your phone in, and then you drive it around with these things. This is the one you should get. There's also a controller with a built-in screen. And when we first tested the screen, I really liked it because it is a little bit brighter and it's so nice to not have to pull my phone out. But long term, the more I used it, the more of a problem I found it to become, because I found that the operating system on this, it runs like a specialized version of Android. I found that it just wasn't that reliable. It was flaking out on me and it caused me to miss a couple of shoots. And if I wanted to share something on my Facebook and Instagram, it was like another place that I needed to log in and type all my passwords for. And ultimately, it was more trouble to deal with this screen than it was just to put my regular phone in here. There's another variety of drone too, and that is the Phantom 4 Pro. It's $1,500. It costs more, here it is, and the differences aren't much at all. Look, at the front of this drone, both the Phantom 4 Advanced and the Phantom 4 Pro, they have these little things at the front that's obstacle avoidance. It can see forward in stereo in order to see things that it will crash into. And as long as you're not in sport mode, it'll see stuff and try to stop. It's not 100%, but especially if you're a beginner, even if you're advanced, it can really give you that extra little bit of safety. Now, if we flip these things around, we start to see the difference. See on the Phantom 4 Pro here, the Phantom 4 Pro has obstacle avoidance at the rear. The Phantom 4 Advanced does not. And that's the difference of $300. Now, Phantom 4 Pro also has obstacle avoidance on the sides, but that is useless because it only works in beginner mode where you have to go really, really slow and stay close. So you don't ever get to use those on the side in practice. So basically the Phantom 4 Pro just adds these rear obstacle avoidance, but that can be important. If you're tracking a subject backwards, it's very easy as the pilot to be focused on the video that you're capturing and not see that you just backed right into a tree or a building or something. Otherwise, they're identical. They have the same cameras, the same gimbals. Everything else is the same. That brings us to the big guy here. This is the DJI Inspire 2. The drone platform itself is $3,000, but that does not get you a camera. Believe it or not, you have to buy a separate camera. You can put different cameras on them. One has a fairly small sensor and the video will look almost identical to the Phantom 4 Advanced or Pro. The one that I have, the Zenmuse X5, has a micro 4/3 sensor on it, and that means it's a little bit of a bigger sensor for those of you into photography. And look at what it can do. I can actually take lenses off and put them on. Ooh, that's fantastic. You can go super wide or you can go telephoto. Now your video has a little bit of a non-drone-ish style look. Also, size matters with drones. This big drone can handle like gale force winds and keep up. It can fly fast enough to keep up with a car driving at highway speeds. It's built with a lot of redundancy here. Like, look, it's got 2 actual batteries in it, and one of the batteries can totally fail and the drone will keep flying. It has more internal redundancy too, with things like the sensors that are sensing the environment. It can actually see upwards, which all these drones should have. because sometimes you're flying up and you'll hit some tree branches or something that you didn't notice. You can just slap an SD card in it and film directly from the camera like you do with any of these other drones. So it can be used casually like that, but you can also slap a proper SSD hard drive in there and record like raw video footage. Depending on the camera you can even go up to 6K video footage. And you can do things like fancy focus pulling in case you need to manually rack focus in your shots. So the sky is the limit here. If you're a professional filmmaker, this is going to better be able to match your footage, and you'll be able to swap lenses out and pick your focal length. Another big advantage of this is that you can use 2 separate controllers with it. Another cameraman can grab a second controller, and then one person can fly this and the other person can independently track shots. So this can spin 360 degrees. Path and your camera angle are completely independent. And because these legs flip up, you don't ever have to worry about props getting into the shot. On all these other drones, the props will get into the shots, especially if you're flying upwind, and you might get some banding as the sun shines through the props and hits the sensor. That regularly wrecks our shots with any of the other drones, but it does not happen in the Inspire. The Inspire is big and very professional looking and kind of scary, and it always delivers. But at the same time, we fly the Inspire less than everything else, because with this camera and that lens, I think we're looking at around $6,000 or $7,000, and that makes me really nervous to fly it because something can go wrong, and I don't want to wreck that much. And if you go to DJI right now and you get this fully spec'd out with the best camera and all their lenses, you will spend $20,000. Something else you could do would be to go to lensrentals.com. Here you can rent the Inspire 2 right here and just rent it with the camera of your choice. Use the coupon code Northrop15 and that will get you 15% off. So in case you just want to sample that pro footage, you can do it and save yourself a lot of money. When it's time to pack it up, Lens Rentals makes it extremely easy to return. Hope this helped you find a drone. If you have follow-up questions, write a comment down below. If you've had different experiences, write it down below, and subscribe to see drone tutorials and future drone reviews, because we know some new drones are coming out real soon. And thank you to our sponsor, Lens Rentals, lensrentals.com. Whether you want to try out one of these drones or you want to get yourself a camera or lens, either for stills or video. Thanks, guys.